What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to go over my impressions, my review of the Witcher TV trailer, the one that we saw at Comic-Con, obviously coming to Netflix late 2019. We got to see the first trailer, and it dropped, and I think it surprised a lot of people, and I feel like that's a word that I'm probably going to say quite often in this video, because to start it off, I'll say that I am massively surprised at how good it looks. It actually looks very, very good. I would say that word. I don't think it looks average. I think it looks above average, and it caught me off guard. A couple of weeks ago, even a couple months ago, when they were starting to, or when we knew filming was going on, there were some leaks out there, some videos posted of just the most comical looking things I think I've ever seen. It looked like the lowest budget show/movie of all time. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, it's the people in that kind of medieval armor, but it looked like something you or I could make up in like 5 minutes. It just looked really, really bad. And I don't know what happened since then, or I don't know if that was a joke that they were kind of basically pranking us, but what we got as the actual full version is really, really good. One thing I really do like about it is the scope. It seems like it actually has a very big scope in mind. In all of these different scenes, you have really huge, vast battles. You have really big, vast areas in general, whether it be castles or outside, all of those things. I like the scale, and I didn't really expect, I mean, maybe I did kind of expect the scale to be big, and maybe that's why the budget reasons and what we saw in those kind of clips, maybe that's why it looked alarming. It's like, well, maybe they're stretching themselves too thin. Maybe they want this thing to be this huge, kind of basically open world, right? But in a TV show, open world program, and they just couldn't actually do it. Maybe the battles would be so big, or they're trying to get it so big that they just couldn't do it. From everything we saw, it looked really good. The battles and stuff looked very Game of Thronesy, and that's, I think, the next part of this, and that's something that I feel a lot of people are throwing out there. I'm pretty sure the directors or the writers of The Witcher has said, like, we're not trying to be the next Game of Thrones, and that's good. I don't think, you don't really make a TV show in general. You don't make anything to basically compare yourself to something else that's already done it. You don't really do that, and The Witcher is not Game of Thrones. I mean, you could argue it's close, but you didn't make this show. I'm sure they did not make the show saying, well, we want to be compared to Game of Thrones. We want, I mean, I'm sure aspects will be the same. Maybe they'll do things better than Game of Thrones. Maybe they'll do things worse than Game of Thrones. I'm sure that'll happen. But it did look, especially the battle parts, looked very Game of Thrones-like, which is fine. I mean, honestly, that's completely fine. The characters, I think a lot of people are obviously going to go heavy on the characters in terms of who looked like who. I think Here's my main thing. I think Henry Cavill nails it. I think what we got from him as Geralt looks phenomenal. I think he's going to, I truly believe he'll nail that role. They've talked a lot about, how they auditioned like 200 people for that role, and it was his voice that constantly stuck out. I feel like the voice of Henry Cavill is probably the thing that worries me the most. He didn't talk overly, like a ton in this trailer, and, from what he did, he sounded fine, but I feel like his voice is actually the farthest thing from Geralt that I can think of. In terms of literally how he looked, the armor, his hair, all that kind of stuff, looked phenomenal. He looked really, really good. I think by a mile, he looks like the best. He looks like the most seamless character going from the game to what you would imagine the TV show to be. I think some of the others looked okay. Yennefer looks great. I think for the most part, they all look average to above average. Ciri, I don't think looks that amazing. She definitely stuck out. I know she stuck out to Tyler. He texted me that he was not, happy with that. I think that's going to be the general case in fans' eyes as well. But looking beyond her, I really do feel like the cast, in terms of who we saw from the game, I think they did a pretty good job overall. I think the characters look pretty much like it. And, ultimately that's going to be the biggest thing. When it comes to this show, what we have right now is an absolute major surprise. I did not expect that it would look this good. It honestly got me excited for it. And maybe, just maybe, I got myself way too low. My expectations were way too low. And maybe this was just an average trailer or something. I'm really interested to see what you guys thought of it, because from my point of view, I feel like I set it towards, I thought this was going to be comically bad, where I would laugh at it and we'd have videos discussing how terrible it looked and like, have they ruined it, those kind of things. I went with that expectation in mind, especially, again, I don't really know how you couldn't with all the stuff that we'd kind of seen about it. But then as the days were getting closer to Comic-Con, when we started to see pictures of Henry Cavill, I mean, it looked really good. We saw him on top of Roach. That looked really nice. So I think things started building, but my expectations were still just very low just because of all the stuff we've seen. Netflix very, very, I believe, hit or miss with their programs. They have some great shows like Stranger Things, Orange is the New Black. They have, yeah, I mean, there's something kind of for everyone on Netflix for sure, but they aren't like the kings of their own programs. You know, sometimes they make some really big flops, that's for absolute sure. And The Witcher, in my opinion, was aimed or was going towards that. Like, that's where I thought it was heading, towards just a really catastrophic failure. The trailer, in my opinion, proved myself wrong and switched me around. I'm now very hyped for it. I'm now very excited for it. In terms of the story, in terms of what I expect from the show, I don't really have any expectations still. And to be quite honest with you, I feel like that's the best, in my mind, my own opinion, I feel like that's the best mentality to have. I was already having low expectations for this trailer. It blew me away. It showed me some really cool dialogue. It showed me some really cool characters. It showed me what looked to be a plot that has a beginning, middle, and end. Like, they actually know where they want to go with it. Ideally, they're going to want to have sequels, right, or more than one season. So season 2, it showed some really cool action sequences. So it had all the things that you kind of want from a show that, again, I think a lot of people are going to kind of compare to Game of Thrones. Netflix's Game of Thrones, I feel like is what a lot of people are going to say, right? With that in mind, going into the show, I still have my expectations pretty low. I'm not going to expect all that much, and I feel like that's good because at the worst, it's going to meet my expectations, I guess, and be like, well, you know, this wasn't the greatest thing. Or it could, again, shock me, and it could actually turn out to be really, really awesome. I could have a lot of fun with it. I can enjoy it, and I feel like that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, it's based off of the book series for sure, but at the same time, the game is off of that too, or has inspiration from it. So the game was phenomenal, right? Everybody loved, especially The Witcher 3. It gained popularity each time, each game entry, and then Witcher 3 obviously blew up. I don't have my expectations super, super high. This is going to be the most depth-filled show in the world, that it's going to create the kind of characters. I guess I'm comparing it to Game of Thrones now, right? Obviously, I know what happened at the end of Game of Thrones. I know that the atrocity that Season 8 was. We covered it a ton on the channel. With that being said, I think what they built in those 8 seasons before they ruined it in the 8th season was phenomenal. I don't necessarily expect that growth or that just high achievement in this. I don't expect to see the greatest battles of all time, the greatest character development, you know, romance, whatever. My expectations are, again, kind of low, but I feel like that's going to be good because I truly also believe the show is going to be pretty darn decent at worst. I think this show is going to surprise a lot of people, especially people that, I mean, if you still don't like the trailer, then I don't know if the show is going to prove you wrong. You know, I have seen on the internet some people are still saying that trailer did not look good. I don't agree. I thought that trailer looked really good, and again, maybe it's because I didn't have a lot in my head of what I expected. I kind of expected just like, I don't know, a $50 budget, like if you took a camcorder and went outside and recorded your friends doing stuff. That's kind of, you know, not exactly what I expected, but I expected pretty low quality, to be honest with you, and what we got was not. I mean, it could, maybe it was a low budget, maybe they had some problems filming, but so far they've shown that it doesn't matter. I don't know what the budget is. I don't know how expansive their filming process was, but what I can tell you is from what I saw, it looks like they've done a really, really good job. So I'm very excited for this. We're going to be covering this show on the channel. We'll be talking about this show before it comes out. We need a release date. It doesn't have a release date yet, but once we know a release date, we'll be having a mini community series on it, talking about the show. We will also be reviewing the entire season, talking about potential season 2. So we got a lot of Witcher TV series content coming on the channel. So if you guys like that, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And again, let me know what you guys thought of all of this in the comments below. I greatly appreciate you guys watching as always, and I hope to see you on the next video.